Yeah, season número 2, comenzando este nuevo episodio, este nuevo season con un gran amigo desde Sudáfrica. Tenemos a nada más y nada menos a Gerhard De Bruin. De verdad que estoy súper pompeado por empezar este nuevo season y tengo un repertorio que va a estar demasiado. Así que, dicho esto, desde Sudáfrica nos acompaña el triatleta profesional Gerhard De Bruin, que nos va a estar acompañando hoy y nos va a estar hablando un montón de cosas. Esta entrevista va a ser en inglés, así que pueden hacer sus preguntas en confianza y las puedo traducir. Así que por ahí nos vamos. So today we are live with Gerhard De Bruin from South Africa. I'm super excited. Season number 2, and we're gonna open this season of my podcast with this friend, triathlon coach, professional triathlete. He hosts an amazing triathlon camps. Gerhard De Bruin from South Africa. What's up, Gerhard?
Randy, good on you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you, man, for accepting this. I'm super excited. How are you doing? How things going on down there in South Africa?
I think this is probably the only time in life that you appreciate living in a third world country, I guess, because the rules are quite flexible here, and law enforcement is probably not as strict as first world countries. So I'm personally doing actually very well, thank you.
That's good to hear. How are you holding up with all these things going on in the world right now?
Um, I think it's like preparing for a race. Just you just don't know when the race is going to happen. You just have to have an approach to it that you don't only train for events, but you train for life. And I think if you have that mindset, then it really helps in staying positive, staying motivated, getting out of the bed, and not necessarily work on goals, but just working on having fun again, which is the fundamentals, I guess, of sport. So having fun.
That's a that's a pretty good point. So, how is training for life for you?
I think if I don't train for, oh no, I know if I don't train for 2 3 days, I actually start getting uncomfortable and itchy. So um, I think I've learned how my mental mindset works. So I try to always do my training sessions. I not necessarily have to have them scheduled. Like I enjoy swimming and I enjoy running and I enjoy riding my bike. So um, during COVID time, I tried to focus on things I normally don't have time for, which was strength and conditioning and admin and building new programs for my athletes and new sessions and also taking some downtime. I think it's the only time in history that you were locked into your house for 5 months. You had to keep yourself busy. All the work was done. This mirror was hanged up. The shower head was working. The toilet was flushing properly. Everything was working fine. So I think if you made yourself a little bit of a to-do list and you got it done, then you feel good about it. And it's all about feeling good and getting out of this situation we're in at the moment.
This is the second time in 5 minutes that you mentioned in a good way, feeling good and enjoying life. So I have noticed that you are trying or you're keeping a good motivation for yourself or for others. Is that how you see life?
Yeah, definitely. I think my biggest challenge coaching my group of athletes was keeping them mentally healthy, not feeling depressed or demotivated about not being able to race. and it's not about, there's worse things out there in the world that's going on. It's more about you personally. I think we tend to focus on too much external factors, not internally on what's really feeding your soul to mentally be in a good space, and that's the challenges we have these days with all the social media and all the things we see on the TV stuff. It really feeds our brains negatively, and that can be a problem.
Yeah, definitely. How Gerard feed his soul? How do you feed your soul? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good one. So I think I'm 36 years old now, so I've throughout the years I've found some hacks and tricks that I really know works for me personally. For me, it's really doing something every day that I feel is making me feel good about myself and in life. And gratitude was something that I really focused on the last 2 years. Um, about just over a year ago, I lost one of my athletes that was really close to me. She was third in Kona in 2017, and she died in a car accident. And it gave me a bit of perspective on how to enjoy the time you've got. Because the nice thing in triathlon is you meet awesome people like yourself and all the people I've trained with around the world, and it's a nice vehicle to see different backgrounds, different forms of cultures, and how people deal with different things. And for me, it was um, a privilege to see how people deal with training environments like in Russia where it's snowing, and in Boulder where it's snowing, and we've, like I said, we've got only 9 months of the year. We've got summer. Yeah, it's nice and warm. So it's just about being grateful for what you've got, and what you can do with your time available, and then try to approach it, and not big chunks and big goals. It's like getting up 7 days a week at a healthy time, not sleeping in the whole time, and it's small step. Definitely an atomic habit, if I may call it that.
Mhm. I'm sorry for your loss. And yeah, it's hard when we lost someone or when we lose someone, and then we appreciate. Yeah, it can be a friend, it can be a family member, and then um, you start thinking about, okay, the only thing that I have is right here and right now.
Mm.
And if we keep life simple, at least this is the way that I think. If I keep my life like simple and trying to keep myself in here and now, uh, it can be very peaceful and joyful at the same time because I'm just enjoying the moment, right? And I think that's kind of what you said right now. Uh, and yeah, doing something that you love. I love that quote, like doing something that I love in life, helping others, triathlon, and that's for me. It's living, family. I heard that you're getting married, so congratulations, you! And that happened during
Yeah.
this pandemic, right?
Yeah, so my girlfriend got she was actually moving in between two apartments, and her parents said like, no, 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 go stay with Gerard. Like, we don't have space for you now. It's going to be too crowded at home. And so she stayed at my place, and it ended up being really good for us. Like, really and enhance our relationship, and how compatible we are, because we really had a lot of fun. So it was good for me. I can't complain. I had a really good lockdown, apart from not being able to swim. But I got a lot of other things done, and I spent really good time with her, and I took a lot of downtime. Like what else can you do? You just tick the boxes every day, do 2 sessions or 3 sessions a day, read as much books as you can, do communicate, go for walks through the aisles of shopping centers, browsing stuff you don't need, but just keep walking and then keep your mindset busy as if you are just normally continuing. Randy, you there?
Ok, estamos en vivo, hubo un problema de conexión. We were having some issues with the connection, with the signal. Pero estamos aquí, seguimos en vivo, estábamos hablando en vivo con Gerhard, quien nos estaba hablando de su experiencia de vida, en resumidas cuentas, lo que estuvo hablando de cómo él se prepara durante esta pandemia como si fuese una carrera. Y en verdad eso es un tremendo término de cómo ver esto, ¿no? Porque dice que para él pero que hay que estar preparado y en verdad es así, eso es lo que estaba mencionando, que hay que estar preparado, hay que estar vigilante y sobre todo hay que disfrutarse y lo que es este journey y pasarla súper bien. Y eso es básicamente lo que estaba diciendo Gerard, que es como prepararse para una carrera y having fun. Y una de las cosas que también dijo es que uno de los biggest challenge es tratar de mantener a sus atletas mentalmente positivos. So, aquí volvió de vuelta Gerard. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, awesome, perfect. So we were talking about your girlfriend that you're gonna get married.
Yeah, so we set the date and we got a nice wedding venue in close to Stellenbosch, which is really nice, overlooking Table Mountain, the ocean, vineyards. So it's picture perfect.
That's awesome, Gerard. Gerard, and you have a big group of athletes, like you said, right? And but before getting into that and your triathlon camps, um, you have been racing for the past almost 21 years now, right now, right? Like the past 20 years. You started in 2000 doing triathlons. You started like an average Joe and you became a professional triathlete. How that um, journey has become for you? Like how a average Joe becomes a professional triathlete? That's another big question.
Yeah, I think if you have a clear goal and understanding of the sport and knowing your what you want to achieve in it, then you're already starting at a good point. For me, my goal was and still is I want to race one race as a professional in Kona. Um, and I just want to race competitive as an Ironman athlete. Winning events is a little sacrifice that I'm at this stage of my life and I basically never was able to just say this is what I want to achieve. I don't mind not being or not winning events. For me, I wanted to race competitively, train with good athletes like I've done, trained with Daniela Rife, with Brett Sutton, with Greg Bennett, with Crowe in different parts of the world. So for me, it was all about gaining knowledge so that I can feed it back into the triathlon world so that I can be a better coach, have a better understanding, and give a better display on my camps of what I think individual athletes need to achieve their goals. And if you want to become a professional athlete, that how do you create your platform in or springboard basically to achieve your goals as a professional athlete? Because it is super demanding sport and it's the rewards is really small for massive sacrifice. If you look at the cream de la cream, the Frodinos and Sebastian Kienles, Ben Hoffmans, and that's just a little bit of success that you see, and then the ITU field is moving in, which is massive. It's like the Challenge Daytona just proved it again, that how competitive it can be, and you can be in the best shape in your life and just not perform on the day. So for me, the risk reward was too low, and I just don't have the massive engine some of these athletes got to run the times or swim the times. So my business model or plan of attack was basically to race as best as I could, um, gain as much knowledge as I can, and try to share that knowledge on my camps and to the athletes I coach, because I coach the average triathlete, the average Joe who's got a family and a work and kids and stuff. So for me, it was the tools to create a program and give them the right answers and knowing what to say and when not to say it, basically.
Do you come from a sports background, Gerard?
So I've always done sport in my life. I'm the youngest in the family. My brother was quite a sportsman himself, but only up until university level. So I studied sports psychology and biokinetics, which is quite a popular degree in sports science here to study. But I realized that coaching was just basically calling me, because I was having a small swim school, and the kids really understood the way I was explaining things. They could basically monkey see, monkey do type of thing of how I explain to them what I want them to achieve. And after 5 years of that, one of the guys on the camps said to me, "Are you willing to help me for Ironman?" I said, "Sure." I've never done Ironman, but I can figure it out. And yeah, and just came naturally to me. So I started super slow with like 3 or 4 athletes, and then grew to 5 or 7, and then to 10, and to 12, and to 15, to 20, and I still keep it pretty small, like 30, 35 athletes, and I interact with them weekly. I know years ago I coached you. I definitely changed my methodology a bit, spending a lot of time with Brett Sutton and his coaches and his camps, and the way they do things for the average Joe. So yeah, sports always been in my blood. I'm the only individual in my family still competing, or doing any physical sport for that matter. But yeah, I think I can relate to people much easier, and that makes it easier for me to understand the obstacles they have, traveling to work, or don't have much time to swim or bike or run. And triathlon, especially Ironman, is such a demanding sport that you have to work on the things where it's going to matter most. And athletes get surprised when I say that they need to swim as much as they do. But swimming is one of the things I really enforce a lot, and then turbo trainers as well. Just value for time and training. So that's basically the hacks I've been using for the last. I think I've been coaching now my 10th year that I'm coaching triathlon specifically, and I've got a few Kona people, a few world champs people already, and it's nice to build a journey. The majority of my athletes stay with me for about 4 to 6 years in counting. So yeah, it's quite rewarding when you see them achieve their goals around the obstacles they've got.
Of course. Are you a tri pseudo coach or not? You're De Bruin, right?
No,
Because you said about okay,
yeah,
you're De Bruin. Okay, perfect. Sorry. You said Brent, the doctor. So I think that guy. He is kind of one of the best for me as for knowledge. So if have you worked with him?
yeah. I've it started in 2015, and I've been to St. Moritz and Lessine, with Joe Spindler, and my personality is like a sponge, so I really listen when the doc spoke, and how he said certain things to me and what I need to do specifically, and I also was pretty observant in how he speaks to other athletes and why he's saying, okay, don't swim with a band, or that pool boy is too small for you, your paddles is too big, or run this way. So for me, it was really rewarding. I personally wish I could spend more time with him, but the group obviously got a massive, in St. Moritz. The nice camps was the heat camps in Asia, training with Mary Beth Ellis and Jordan Bryden and Sarah, what's her name? Sarah, will come to me now. And Daniela Rife basically, and we were like, and Matt Troutman, sorry, we were like 6. So spending a month with them, and it was really nice for me because there was no other athletes that took his time or attention. So you can really deal with how he's coaching and how he's explaining things, which is really rewarding for me. I think if things relax, I'll like to spend a bit more time with him in the future again. And I'll definitely go back to Mallorca and Lucene again. I've got a tri-satellite coach at the moment as well, Andre Vistica, which is a creation coach, a friend of mine, which I made in 2016, training with Brett, and yeah, I just I need to be kept accountable. It's tough to keep yourself honest when you coach yourself. So my personality is to reach out and get somebody to guide me, and I can adjust it accordingly. But Andre's got a lot of European exposure in racing, so that was the knowledge I was after. Different events, different courses, different ways to approach the event. So he won Embreman before, which is one of the events I wanted to do this year, which got obviously cancelled. So yeah, I'm not sure what my goals will be for next year, but racing Kona as a professional, I need to do that. I can't race professional and not race Kona at least.
Yeah, that's your goal, right? So you said something about being sponge, right, and trying to get as most knowledge as possible. And when you were coaching me, right, it was 2014, 2015 season. I got 2 wins during that season, um, and like overall wins, and I felt great. I miss those days. But something that I learned from you that I pass to my athletes, and I want to make this public. It's the famous uh, the intervals. And let me tell you something. I have been doing that to my athletes, thanks to you. And I always mention like, hey, this guy Gerard is the one that teach me how to do the monogetes, which is kind of intervals, right? And
Yeah.
is through this famous runner. So I really appreciate that. But also, I remember those days changing the subject, and right now it's not about me. It's about um, you were looking. We met in Boulder, right? You were coming to the swim practices at la 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 la, but you wanted to spend some time with this person, which was Crowy, because you wanted to learn from him, and you did. And that means a lot for someone that wants to be like, okay, I want to get the best possible. I want to know people. I want to be teachable, and I think that's one of the best way to learn. Being humble, right, and trying to learn from the best.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me it was also very humbling. Getting to the pool, you see all these familiar faces, but you can't really, you're a little bit out of your comfort zone. You're deaf. It's like 10 world champions there in 3-4 lanes. And Greg Bennett was actually very warm towards me, which was, I knew him, but the only thing we had in common was probably we're both from the southern hemisphere, and Australians is very similar to South Africans. And even till today, I keep contact with those guys, and he pulled me in towards Crowy, and we always had a bit of banter around sports. And it just showed me again, like in triathlon, you can mingle with the best of the best because they're also just human at the end of the day, which is very humbling.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? Um, okay, so you come from average show, you became a professional triathlete. How do you became a professional triathlete?
So I think for me, my journey was that I wanted to I wanted to try and qualify for the Olympics in 2008, and I was pushing quite hard towards that for probably 6 years while studying at university. And my strength at that stage was the bike, and then 70.3s started becoming more popular, and the qualification process just got more complicated. And I think this is a few months, 6 months before 2008, I broke my fibula, my left ankle, while mountain biking. And I was semi forced to move towards half Ironman distance. Um, and then I was lucky enough to have people that was willing to support me for 6 months or less, financially, and I just decided, okay, I'm just going to Europe and see what I can do. And I went and I came back, and suddenly my camps became more popular. And the next moment, I was able to start funding myself to go race overseas and grow as an athlete. So I didn't have like financial backup month to month to month, but I started getting income so that I can travel and race. And when I could get back to South Africa, people would just like, yeah, he just raced in this country, in this country, in this country. Let's go to his camps. And suddenly from the camps, people moved to my coaching because they saw I've got some information to share. I'm willing to help them. I'm quite open minded with their limitations. Um, and it just kept rolling out the whole time. So it's not the classic way where most athletes get to a race, they do super well, they get sponsors, and it lasts for a few months, or they renew their contract. Mine was more like a self-funded system for me, so that I can travel and race professionally.
People think about sometimes people are like, oh, he's a professional triathlete. He makes a lot of money. I know a lot of professional triathletes. I know a bunch of them. And it's like, and I have talked about this a lot. And it's so hard to gain money out of triathlon, like so hard. I know you have been managed yourself by doing triathlon camps, coaching people, and you are self-supported, like you said. But how hard? I want to hear from you. How hard it is for someone that wants to make a living out of triathlon?
Um, Randy, so I joked about it about 2 weeks ago. I said to people when I trained with Brett in Asia, we trained really hard in 2016. By I think Daniela won Kona by lots that year, and I said to people the training was so hard that I was looking forward to race half Ironman distance because it was easy, and it's not like he's throwing you into the deep end and you just train yourself to death. But even on easy days, we did 4 hours of cycling and a k and a half or mile swim. And that was extremely hard for me because you're being a full-time athlete as a professional, you want to make it. You need to dedicate the whole day as if you have a office job because that's what it takes. And there's no other way around it. Uh, Age groups these days train close to 20 hours a week on average. It used to be less than 16, and then the average was 16 at Kona. Now, if you want to be a competitive age group, it's 20 hours. The difference between a professional and an age grouper is that professional athletes can rest. They can go take an afternoon nap, which is making the difference. So it's pretty hard. It's a lot of sacrifice when it comes to family, friends, relationships, and I think that is one of the things that makes it the hardest. Saying no because you've got a 5 hour, 4 hour bike on Saturday and a 2 hour run on Sundays, and knowing that when you get back, you can't just shower and go on with your day, which I end up doing a lot of times because I've got quite a social girlfriend or fiance at the moment. But I had to change that when I get into my racing block, which I didn't have this year. But that's the sacrifices, and that's the things that makes it so hard. So one, if you're single and you have a really well support structure, then you're on the right track, because your team needs to be 100% behind you. Because the training is one thing, but the obstacles, the temptations, the getting your physical therapy in, your massages, there's that little things that basically fill your day out. Those are the hard things. The things that I really see is making a good athlete from a great athlete. The devil's in the details, especially with triathlon, because it's such a competitive sport. And looking at where it's going now and the speeds the athletes are running, swimming and biking, you need to be on top of your game the whole time if you want to be competitive.
Yeah, it is hard. It sounds brutal. Gerard, this is a question that a lot of people ask. As professional triathlete and um, not as a coach, I want to talk to you about professional triathlete, and then, like I said, we're gonna talk about your coaching, your training camps, etc. So, you as an athlete, how do you eat when you're racing or when you're training? Do you have any particular? Okay, I'm gonna eat this amount. If I want to lose weight, I want to do a low calorie diet, fasting. Do you believe in that? Well, what are your thoughts about all the things that I just mentioned? You as an athlete, and maybe you can talk about you as a coach for your athletes.
Hmm. Okay, so I think one thing is that we tend to try, or athletes tend to try to eat healthy when they train, and when they don't train, they maybe slip in bad food habits. I try to educate my athletes firstly on training for life. So you don't necessarily need to train for an event, but you train for life. And if you train for life, you need to eat for life. I use a low calorie approach even for my athletes with high fat, low carb. I do carb cycling, so when we do quality training, we'll definitely increase the amount of calories you use around the sessions, especially swimming. But the rest of the time, I try to eat as low carb as possible and have a lot of healthy fats. Um, so I definitely use a low carb approach. I won't say ketogenic diet, but a ketogenic approach, which is pretty easy to scale it. But 150 to 200 grams of carbs a day, especially when into the metabolic flexibility of utilizing fats or carbohydrates. So my athletes definitely are fat adapted when they approach Ironman. You just get so much more bang for your buck. The byproduct of being fat adaptable is much better. So you don't need that top end power for Ironman. And if you follow Dan Plews in New Zealand, I mean, he's one classic example. So I've done his courses as well, and they're very helpful in understanding where you fit in and what type of athlete you are. So I'm not just a saint. I do enjoy a beer, wine, and occasionally pizza or burger or whatever. And then when I have it at dinner, I'll fast the next day up until lunchtime like today. And last night we had pizza. We made our own homemade pizzas. So this morning I did 5,000 meters in the pool, only on coffee, and I only had something to eat at noon. So I 100% believe in intermittent fasting. And if you want to lose weight, try to do it gradually. And the best way is to count your macros, because we measure very badly with our eyes. We think this is 100 calories, but it's actually like 500 calories because it's a high density sugar. So liquid calories is the biggest issue. So it's understanding what are you putting in your mouth, and it's not about doing it throughout life. It's just educating yourself for like a month, and then you'll realize your habits, or have a 10-day food diary where you see, oh, I've enjoyed chocolate these days, and then adapt to that. It's all about healthy habits and sustainable habits, because if you have something that's healthy and sustainable, you really get rewarded. A physique, good racing, less illnesses. So that is the key for me personally, and I think for a lot of my athletes, and they all over the world, different backgrounds, and genetically they grew up. They've got genetically different backgrounds as well. So I see it in different forms and shapes in different places in the world, on different diets as well. You know, people in Norway or Denmark, they eat a lot of fish naturally. They've got less inflammation because there's so much omega-3s in. And then people, athletes that's in Mozambique, that's Portuguese, they eat a lot of chicken, they meat and fruits and stuff. So it's, for me as a coach, I try to adapt with what the athlete's habits is, and especially if they have kids, it's super tough when they have kids on to streamline diets, and then how to give them advice on that. I don't tell them this is what you need to eat. I just say, okay, careful of adding too much nuts in your salad, because nuts is very, very fattening. If you don't do the high volume training, you will pick up weight because it's high calorie density. And although it's healthy, too much of it's, and it doesn't take a lot to be too much, for example.
Yeah, that sounds like amazing, especially how you can adapt to different cultures, right? Because yeah, like you said, adapt to different cultures, because you don't know. It's hard. That part is hard, like adapting. Uh, so, Gerard, talk to me about your triathlon camps, DBT. And what does those three letters means? I see your cap that says DBT. Um, talk to me about that. You.
So yeah, basically, I grew up in central South Africa, which is it's the countryside of South Africa. A lot of farming, and very hilly. We've got altitude of very similar to Boulder. And when I started at University of Pretoria, they wanted to take us on a training camp, and they wanted to take us up north, and it was quite pricey for me as a student. And I said to them, "No, I'll do a training camp for you guys. I'll organize everything. Just come to my venue." And by that time, the national park in the area, which is Golden Gate, was run by one of my school friends' father. And he said, "Yeah, come join, do this training camp thing." And I asked one of the farmers for his lake, and it's a bit of a drive to the pool, but we used the lake, and it's really nice, rolling hills. And I asked some physical therapists and students to come massage there, and I knew somebody who's a mechanic, and yeah, man, now it's 15 years later, and I've figured out what is the perfect formula for having people to train for 8 days on my camp and getting the most out of it without basically overtraining and dying on altitude, even if they come from sea level. So I provide for $400 a week with accommodation, lunch, dinner, road support, massages every day, and we discuss a lot of triathlon topics. and this is now my 15th year doing the January camp, and I meet people around the world
Wait,
coming to
wait,
these camps
time out.
because
Time out. $400 like US dollars
that's correct. Yeah.
for a week. Triathlon, lodge, training experience, everything for $400.
Yeah. Yeah.
8 days.
8 days, 7 nights, 8 days. Yeah.
Wow. And it includes, does it include some food, nutrition, everything?
The only thing we don't do is
Damn.
breakfast. Yeah.
Wow.
It's super value for money, and I just live by that motto. Sport is so expensive. I don't want to be part of overcharging people for triathlon stuff, because for me it's really rewarding seeing somebody come into the camp. Firstly, enjoying the process of getting fit, losing weight, understanding how to live healthy, and meet mind like people similar challenges, and taking these tools, maybe next camp, or taking these tools to move forward in life, because that's rewarding for me, seeing people grow and take the sport, which I believe is the best sport in the world, is triathlon, because it's a destination sport. It's rewarding, it's challenging, and it's very healthy if you do it in a healthy way. So I've got a good recipe, I must say. 15 years later, I've got just under 1,500 people that have attended my camps now. I run 3 to 4 a year, and all of them are pretty cheap, like I just said. And I've got a really nice menu. We eat lots of salads. We cater to vegan, vegetarian, whatever. We are lucky because everything is fresh, farm produce. Some locals gave us fresh potatoes or sweet potatoes or meat or eggs. So that's the benefit of growing up in a small community where people see what you're doing and try to be involved in any shape or form, giving like organic milk or the coffee roastery giving coffee beans, so anything in that form of shape. So yeah, I try to keep it as cheap as possible and give back to the people as much as I can, because those are the selection of athletes I get to decide which ones I want to coach, which ones is accommodating to my personality, and how I'm not going to be um, too time constrained, because it takes it, because I'm so emotionally involved in trying to help them achieve their goals. And that's maybe one of my main things when I coach, is to really get into their shoes and mindset, and how I'm going to change it. And when they're low, how to get them up, and when they're too high, just put a little bit of a brake on it.
And that's talking about that. Is that your philosophy of training, or what's your philosophy when you're training someone?
For me, it's about keeping them in the sport, because as long as they enjoy what they're doing and seeing success and enjoying the process and the journey, then they'll stay a customer. They'll come to the camps. They'll come back if they want to take a break, which happens often. People get kids, or they change jobs, or they just want to take a little break. And if an athlete wants to stop, I don't, no questions asked. They stop. We shake, and if they want to come back in a month or two's time, I'll take them on again, because we we go through we go through chapters in life, ups and downs, and I just roll with it. I try to figure it out. It's sometimes easier to figure out female moods and when they're going to be up or down. But for me, it's about feeding the energy And if they're keen to train, we go with it. And when they're not keen to train, we drop it. Because if you give them 12 hours a week of training and they're missing sessions, they end up doing 7 or 8 hours, they're going to be very hard on themselves. So I try to give them a stimulus which is within reach, so that they have positive adaptation and really have a constructive training load. If you give too much training for your athletes, and they miss it, they are or triathletes in general, who's A personalities, they're very hard on themselves, and that's not beneficial. They might decide, no, I'm just going to do cycling now, or no, I just want to do running now. So for me, it's preserving the sport and keeping them in triathlon, because that's my industry and that's the industry I want to grow.
That's awesome. Um, Gerard, we're living in challenges situation, right? I don't want to say hard times. Um, Through this pandemic, uh, for you, for triathletes, for me, for families, for everyone, right? Uh, I always try to do a conclusion during the podcast about talking about maybe motivational, saying something to inspire others. Uh, what have you learned about this, or do you have something to say situation that we're living before finishing this podcast YouTube live?
Randy, yeah, I think the first thing you need to look into your life is to see where you're at and to see how far you've come, and to really be quiet and ask yourself the questions. If if you are grateful for where you are in your life, because gratitude comes a very, very, very long way. For me personally, it was gratitude that was really important for me, being grateful for where I am in my life and what I've achieved, and also for what I've not achieved. Because if I didn't miss my goals, I would have never knew how it feels to have goals. And I think we have to have challenges to grow. If we don't have challenges in life, we don't grow. And if we don't have dreams or goals, we don't have a reason to get up in the morning, or to go out and do that tough training session, or to work an extra hour or two to make a living, or get an income. So it's been challenging times, but there's still a lot of things we can be grateful for. And it's never too late to start dreaming big, even if it's so big that people say you're crazy. Like, my family was quite hard on me when I said I want to be a professional triathlete. There's a lot of stories like that, and I think it was almost 10 years later, my dad still said to me, when you're going to get a real job? And it took some time for his generation to understand that there's actually a business in what I'm doing and the way I'm doing things. So you have to be kind to yourself, and you have to be grateful for your situation. And if you're not happy at where you're at the moment, start with small positive affirmations and habits, because the top 3 things in your life is what you tend to get drawn towards. If it's family, relationship, and work, that's your top priorities in life. That will be the 3 things that comes out the whole time, that manifests in your life. So I think we need to spend more time with ourselves, less times on social media on our phones, and appreciate the people around us, and really listen when they talk, and really connect with one another again to feed the soul. So yeah, that's my advice that I would say for the times we're living in. Although it is frustrating, of course.
Love it. Gerard, Never stop dreaming. Be kind. Be grateful. Dude, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk and to talk to other people through this uh, YouTube podcast. So really appreciate you um, sending love to you, my friend, and hopefully we're gonna see each other pretty soon. If not, we're gonna keep in contact. Here you have a friend. So really appreciate your time. Thank you, Gerard. Hoy en vivo tuvimos a Gerard. Este podcast estuvo magistral. Terminó la entrevista con diciendo que nunca pares de soñar, sé amable y sé agradecido en la vida. Gerard, you need to practice your Spanish, so because you're
I
going
will.
pretty soon to Mallorca. All right, thank you so much, Gerard. Gracias a todas las
Thanks,
personas que
Randy.
nos sintonizan. Así que, sí, Gerard, y gracias a todos.